The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA. It may contain Batman references, time travel references, sexual references, lost trains of thought, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that the program is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15, or anyone who enjoys succinct, coherent conversation that might actually have a point. Minors must be accompanied by a parent, guardian, or priest. This is John Deek speaking.
Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Wil Anderson. Hello, Charlie.
Oh, there's a high energy start to the show.
Well, we're both in pain. I am still in very physical pain. I'm still standing doing the podcast. My back now 5 weeks into being terrible and showing some signs of getting better, but not enough signs of getting better. Just new bits of me hurting in new and different ways. So I'm feeling physically terrible, but you're feeling more mentally, terrible.
Look, no, I won't overstate the football result last night. It's more, I've had a very long week myself. A lot of travel's been involved, some very long hours. You can probably hear my voice is a bit husky. So all I wanted to do last night was just to settle back at a quiet local and watch my team play football. And now all I want to do is find something else to follow because it's a fucking waste of my time. And I can't believe so many people have been telling me this for so many years, and I kept ignoring them. I have been dating the worst girl in town, the girl who every year promises she'll be good to me and every year breaks my heart. And I don't know why I put myself through it. I feel like I've hit rock bottom, Wil.
Well, the great news is that you have a complete separate podcast to this, an AFL podcast, where you have to talk about it every single week for the rest of the season. So people can listen to that. It's called Two Guys, One Cup, an AFL podcast. But we won't burden people too much with our football misery here on this podcast. But I will say this, Charlie, we should mention actually in some good news. We should make some exciting announcements. There's a couple of big things that we should talk about going on in the world of TOFOP and TOFOP Live. Firstly, we will be going back. We will be returning to the Los Angeles Podcast Festival to do TOFOP. We have a bunch of confirmed guests: Jackie Cation, Laura House, Matt Kirshen, Gareth Reynolds, Dave Anthony, and Graham Elwood. So that's going to be like a massive show at the LA Podcast Festival. So if you're in LA for that, come along and see us there.
And then probably the more bizarre news you may have noticed on the socials this week is that TOFOP is going to be playing the Opera House.
Now, that's the sort of thing that you imagine. I've been listening to the Little Dum Club because they're also doing this same festival we're doing at the Opera House. And for the last few weeks, they've been teasing the idea that, something pretty out of character, something weird was going to happen and they might be performing at an iconic venue. We haven't mentioned it because, to be honest, until it actually went on sale, we thought it was an elaborate practical joke.
Yeah, that's right. We felt like that maybe Dave Anthony and Gareth Reynolds had been up to something. Maybe they were planning like a future TOLOP about the world's most gullible fucking idiots. But it is real. I mean, it is kind of funny you said, because you're the one, they approached us through your management, obviously, because it's the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. And I think we both had such a kind of, like, it's actually kind of a big thing to be asked to play the Opera House, but you and I were so kind of like laissez-faire and whatever, both because I think we were in a little bit of shock. Like, does people actually want us to play at the opera? Have they listened to it? Like, what are they basing this off? That's what I want to know. Is it because, Wil, it's a sterling comedy conversation between two old friends?
I mean, it feels to me like it says more about the Opera House lowering their standards than it says about us raising ours.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I generally write a lot of the kind of blurbs and stuff when we do live shows. I like to take that on. And I actually really gave me pause writing this one because I'm like, oh, like, this is a big chance to kind of like announce this. Like, who are we? This is our debutante, like our debutante ball. What are we going to say? How do we announce ourselves? And at one stage, I did write out, it's a comedy conversation between two old mates. And I'm like, fuck that. No offense, Mike Al, but that sounds like the worst show on the face of the planet.
Which ironically was the blurb we went with. the worst show on the face of the planet. So come along, see it at the Sydney Opera House.
Now, you've played the Opera House before, so this is probably not as big a deal for you as it is for me.
Well, I mean, here's the thing I will say about playing the Opera House. You never get blasé about playing the Sydney Opera House. Like, you know, when you are going to work and your place of work happens to be the Sydney Opera House, then it's a beautiful thing. Yes, I've been lucky enough to do, you know, like my last 3 or 4 shows there at the Sydney Opera House. And when you're playing the big main room, which, spoiler alert, guys, is not the room they booked TOFOP for. We're playing the Opera House, but, you know, we've got to build ourselves up to the main room. But we are playing in the room that I first did.
They're actually building a Punch and Judy style puppet theaterette outside the Opera House. So when we say we are playing the Opera House, it's just to the side of the Opera House.
Actually, you might have seen it if you've been to the Opera House. It's actually that little guard station for security they have at the roundabout that's about 500 metres from the Opera House. We're playing that guard studio. So what you have to do is you have to be in your car. It's kind of like a drive-in, and we'll be piping it in to your car, and you just have to cog laps of the roundabout to listen.
You know, I had a friend did a show once, like a show, one-man show, I guess. And he did it at this country town in this town hall. And when I got there, I was like, oh, you know, I got into this performance space. The chairs laid out. Obviously, you know, he's going to be performing in the space where the chairs were facing. And I was like, oh, I can't see a bathroom here. I'll just duck out and see if I can find a toilet before the show starts. And so I open this door and step out into this little, like, cramped, little damp crawl space between the buildings. And there's my friend sitting on a stool, like, you know, with his costume hanging up on a couple of coat hangers, like underneath a drain pipe and stuff. And I just looked at him and went, showbiz, eh? I kind of feel like that's what our show is going to be like. Like, if you come to see our show and you just happen to use the public toilets at the opera bar, chances are you'll find Will and I in one of the cubicles getting changed, ready for the show.
Well, firstly, I would say this. There must be some opera singers who are pissed off. That's the first thing I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you're an opera singer whose dream it has been to work your way up to the Opera House, and then you see that some fucking idiots who can barely record their podcast get to do their podcast at the Opera House, then I think there's going to be some resentment in the opera community. That's the first thing I would think. Second thing is, I have played this room before. I played it the first time I played the Opera House myself, doing solo shows there. And the thing is that the way the Opera House works is that the speakers internally, you can be like backstage in your venue and you can hear everything that's happening on stage in your venue, you know, for calls and stuff like that when they're doing plays. But they do that in all the various venues in the Opera House. So, for example, if they're doing Swan Lake in the main room, you'll have a lot of ballet dancers kind of lounging around in this large green room area, but they'll have Swan Lake piped in on the TVs and on the, like, you know, over so that they can hear their cues and they know when they have to go and dance. Now, one year when I was playing the Opera House, something went wrong with that system, and the people who were meant to be doing Swan Lake were just hearing my show. So, can you imagine? If that same accident happens the night we are playing the Opera House and there's like some people upstairs waiting to do Mendelssohn or something and all they're hearing is us talking about Ben Mendelssohn.
Yeah, I imagine there's going to be some fairly confused people. Do you think we'll get... I mean, if we haven't done, apart from that Comedy Store show, we haven't done a live show in Sydney. Like, Melbourne's been treated a few times. Treated, I say, but in inverted commas. Melbourne has been subjected to a few live shows, but this is our first one. So do you think we'll be getting, like, hardcores, or do you reckon we'll be getting some people crossovers, some curiosity people?
I mean, here's the thing. Firstly, it's a slightly higher price point than we would have put on it ourselves. I need to point this out. That. When we value the quality of our entertainment, it turns out we value it a lot lower than an independent producer does. So it's a little bit more expensive than normal, which means that we're going to try to make the show, you know, super, even better than usual. We'll have a bunch of guests, I assume, that we haven't bothered booking because we did not think it was going to happen. But John Deeks is definitely going to do it, right? We've asked Deeksy.
Yeah, we can confirm John Deeks is going to be there. Like, I mean, we should really fucking put more effort into this, right? We should think a bit more about this.
No, we want it to be amazing. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. We all want it to be amazing. The problem is we haven't actually done any thought on what the show will be because we were just so convinced it wasn't a real thing that now that it's actually announced and on sale, I'm like, oh, fuck, we're going to have to get guests and like make this really good so people come.
Well, look, let's see. I mean, often with the live shows, it is a case where like lazy students who cram for a test. We go like, it's fine. I got a month to prepare for this test. Oh, I got 3 weeks. I got 2 weeks. And then I'm up all night fucking sticking badges together for a joke that's 5 years old that no one will be able to see because the stage is so far from the audience. That's the level of professionalism you can expect for our live show. Imagine that on a grand scale, though. You know what we should do? Do you remember when Oprah came and did the Opera House and Hugh Jackman did the Flying Fox in? That's our entrance. I mean, you can barely stand or walk, but I could put you on a Flying Fox, couldn't I?
TOFOP.
Yes. Perfect. TOFOP House.
Do you think we could get Hugh Jackman to recreate that moment for our podcast?
I think we might be able to get Hugh Sheridan. Like, let's lower our sights an Australian actor's named Hugh.
Okay. What about Hugh? Is there any other Hughes? Which Hughes do you think we could do? Because I think, to be honest...
Merv Hughes. I reckon we'd get Merv Hughes. Merv Hughes seems like the kind of guy who would do like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. I think we could get Merv Hughes. We slide Merv Hughes in on a Flying Fox.
So Merv Hughes, Hugh Jackman style, Merv Hughes Jackman. We get him to change his name to Merv Hughes Jackman for the day, and we get him to fly in. But instead of using like that sort of flying fox, what he's using is the different ends of his mustache. And they've rigged that, and he's holding one end each of his big mustache, and he slides down on that into the gig.
Yeah, it's like when you see a trapeze artist sort of hang themselves by the teeth on the trapeze. He just comes in, Mo is connected to the cable, and that's how he slides in.
Yeah, or at least he just slides in on a giant Mo at the very least, right?
Oh yeah, okay, that'll do. Because I think in the early '90s when Merv was at his peak, didn't they have like big foam Merv Mo's or something that you could take to the footy?
Oh.
I mean the cricket.
Well, if they didn't, we should get a time machine and a foam making thing and fucking make that happen because that is a quality idea.
I was at the bottle shop last week and there was a little a basket full of, I guess it's Merv Hughes heads. It's some beer company is doing some promotion where you get these talking bottle openers in the shape of like Merv Hughes's head. And I'm assuming the other one was like a David Boone or someone, but I wasn't quite sure. The likeness wasn't spot on. Have you seen these things? Where is the market for Merv Hughes's head as a bottle opener? Like where? I don't follow cricket much at all these days, but surely there's been other cricketers since Merv Hughes that you'd want to make a bottle opener out of.
Oh, I mean, I guess Merv was famous for loving a drink as Booney was famous for loving to drink. So they've got to be people who are willing to be associated with like, you know, alcohol and being famous for drinking alcohol. And I know for a while Booney was actually, like Booney didn't like it. Like Booney didn't like the idea that people brought up the fact that, you know, he loved alcohol. And I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't have drunk 52 cans on a flight from Australia to fucking London if you didn't want people to talk about you loving alcohol, mate.
Is that and that's a work trip too, right? Like he's obviously
On a
going
work
to
trip.
or from. Oh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, what's the fitness coach or the dietitian thinking about that when Booney's just smashing down 52 VBs on the flight over?
I mean, is it because there's got to be a time where it becomes like, I don't know what the mindset was, whether he got on the plane that day going, I am going to beat the record, or whether he just had, you know, a quick little, you know, the first 4 went down nicely and he thought, oh, fuck it. You know what? That'll be something to pass the time. Like, there's got to be a point of time where it goes around that he's going for the record, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, someone has to take note of that. It's kind of like that scene in Cool Hand Luke with the eating of the eggs. You know, like he's just going to, he knows he just has to, after you get to like 30, someone's going to say, hey, you realize the last person to do that was Richie Benno. Richie Benno sculled like, you know, 38 pots on a flight to London. Let's see if you can beat that, Booney.
Yeah, but then they go back to when they used to actually go to London on a boat. And I mean, you could get a lot of pots down on a 6-month boat voyage.
Richie Benno drank 48 flagons of mull wine on his first tour of England.
I mean, they're different times too, aren't they? Where not only did he like drink 52, but he was served 52.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that he could drink them, it's not like he brought those slabs on himself. He was being served drinks on the plane, right?
Don't you reckon there was a time like a romanticized time of air travel where it's like, your stewardesses were like these babes and they were bringing you martini glasses and it was just like a groovy party in the sky. And then something happened where it just got all serious and like now you just feel like you're going to school when you're on a plane. There's stuff you got to listen to. You got to pay attention up the front. You got to sit where you've been put in your seat. Don't talk to that guy. Be careful what you bring on the plane. The fun's gone out of air travel, Will.
Charlie, I have no idea what you're talking about and have never had an experience that matches what you've just described.
Really? That's funny. I have sworn I read something about you in the paper. Oh, well, moving on. No one wants to hear that story, I'm sure.
Yeah, as long as I did. If I tried to have 52 beers on the way to Wagga, that would have been fine. It was the fact that I tried to stretch my back. Nah, fucking arrested, mate. You should be fucking sinking cans like an Aussie.
How is your drinking these days? Do you think you're better or worse than you were, say, 10 years ago?
I would say in general I'm better, as in like I'm rarely drunk. But there's been a couple of times in the last year, 2 years where I've had a blackout, sort of don't remember, got drunk enough that I don't remember. And that's not something that was ever really part of the way that I was drinking. So I now, since like... there was a couple, when you have one and you're like, oh, well, maybe that's just, you just had one night where you, but I had a couple and I was like, yeah, all right. Okay. I don't like this much. So I've kind of stopped drinking at that top end now, like that bit where you're just like, this might be where now I'm just a bit more like, but I probably drink more regularly.
I would say this, Will, at least you played at the elite level. Like, I never drank at the elite level. I was always like a fairly kind of average drinker. I was never a big drinker. I had this sort of naturally built-in kill switch that would sort of stop me around about, 5 or 6 beers, and I sort of just feel ill or too drunk to keep drinking. I could never push past that and go pro like you did. But even now I've noticed that like just the slightest amount of alcohol gets me drunk. Like I can have 2 beers. I had 2 beers at the pub last night, and I felt so drunk, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, is it just more when I was younger, I had more distractions, and so like I didn't focus in on the drunk feeling as much? Or is it now that's like it's just harder to get started again? Or is it like a joint thing? Is it like I'm getting like my bones are getting older? It's harder to walk. Like I will wake up not just kind of like headachy and cloudy, but my body feels sore from drinking.
Oh, maybe I don't have osteoarthritis. Maybe I've just had a hangover for 15 years. I go and get an x-ray and they're like, actually, no, your hips are fine, mate. You have just been on a 15-year hangover. Sorry, mate. Oh, it's fine. Just don't have a drink for a week. You'll be able to run a marathon by Thursday.
There are plenty of comedians who wouldn't drink, I imagine, right? They go to gigs and they do tours and they're in clubs and stuff all the time where they're not drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact,
do you think it's an even split?
I reckon you don't find a lot of moderate drinkers. That's what I would say. There are some. But
right.
What I would say is there's a lot of people who don't drink at all. Some of them because they used to drink too much. And there's a lot of people who... The problem is that if you like to drink, it's constantly around you. Like there are rare jobs where you go to work and like drinking 3 or 4 beers is actually considered just part of like your work. Like I'll go and do a show and if I have a beer before or a couple of beers before and a couple of beers on stage, like that's my night at work, but you've had 4 beers when you're at work. So if you then go and do something social afterwards, yeah, you're drinking a lot and everywhere you go, somebody will give you a drink. Like it is one of those jobs where like they're like, oh, you're about to work? Oh, here's a whole bunch of free alcohol. Have as much free alcohol as you want before you go to your job.
Yeah. You know what I noticed about drinking is like I've gone through periods where I just don't drink at all. And it's funny, like a few days into it, like a week into it, I'm like, oh, I don't actually miss the alcohol at all. Things sort of change slightly. Like suddenly, weekends I want to go to bed earlier and stuff. And I have some just general sort of subtle things that I notice. But then I also notice when I reintroduce alcohol in, again, I'm not like binging, but it's kind of easy to it's easy to say yes. Like I've been eating out a lot this week. And having a glass of wine with dinner, for instance, is just easy to say yes to. It tastes nice. You feel like it's the end of the day. You can reward yourself. But it's weird. It's just all it is there's no reason why I couldn't just turn it down. But if it's there, I'm like, okay, I might as well drink it.
Oh yeah, I'm very much of the like. If I don't have alcohol in the house, I don't need to go and get alcohol. But if there's like a bottle of wine
Yes.
there, or if there's beer in the fridge, often it'll get to like a drinking part of the day. Like you're just on a day where I'm like here at home. It's a sunny day and it's midday, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I could have like a beer. Like I'm an adult. It's my house. I can have a beer if I want. No one's gonna see.
Well, we've had a few of those moments where, sometimes we'll record TOFOP at different times of the day. And there's been a few occasions where we've had to sort of look at each other and go, is this like, look, all we're doing is sitting in your office and talking shit. The fact that we have microphones, does that make drinking at 10 a.m. acceptable?
I mean, but isn't it funny? Because it's associated with this podcast, because often we do it at a time where you can drink, so we do it a lot of the time drinking. When we do one at 9 o'clock in the morning, it feels weird not to be drinking. And then you're like, well, I can drink at 9 o'clock in the morning if I'm working. Yeah, if we took away the recording, essentially it's just the two of us getting drunk at 9 o'clock in the morning and talking about Batman, which is probably something they have on a list of, do you have a problem? But because we recorded it, Charlie, it's fine.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
But it's a great bit. When I think about it, it is a great bit of codependency enabling. Because generally what will happen is that, we'll be in your kitchen just talking and you'll go to the fridge and you'll show me the beers. Like you'll put them in front of me. Like it's not like you'll say, hey, should we have a beer? You'll take them out and you'll show them to me and say, we want a beer. And so like I know that it's not like, you're not really putting the question, you asking me a question. What you're saying is, I'm going to drink, join me. And I am so easily influenced. I'm like, yeah, that seems like, it's 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. It sounds like a good idea. Let's have a beer.
So firstly, Charlie, yes, you're absolutely correct. What I am saying to you is I'm going to have a beer. Would you like one? So, yes. No, you're right. No, you've certainly seen through my Sherlock-like plan. It is one of those things where I realize now that this podcast is really just a justification for behavior that would not have been tolerated by other people if we weren't recording it. Like our desire to just
100%.
hang out and talk about footy constantly and talk about Batman and nonsense constantly and drink at 10 o'clock in the morning. Like making an appointment. Hey, do you want to come over at 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning and we'll drink alcohol and talk about Batman for an hour and a half? Oh no, we'll record it. It isn't weird.
Yeah, it's work. Well, it makes sense. Like, I justify what my Foxtel subscription to Gem at a Fox Footy. It's like, well, I have to do that now. Like, I have an audience, I have a show, I need to talk about football. So it is a justification. We have to kind of like relax a bit and get into a kind of like free-flowing conversation, and alcohol lubricates that.
TOFOP. It's an elaborate cover story for our bad life decisions. That's what
Now
this
that should have gone
podcast
on Opera
actually
House
is.
poster.
It's a fucking. This podcast is an alibi. That's all it is.
Podcast. We're an alcoholic's beard.
Oh man, yeah. I would like to drink less, and I am trying to drink less. But I certainly just in general with everything, I think there's that thing of going, is my relationship with this thing healthy still? Like sometimes you're like at the start of a tour, you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to have a drink because I'm early on, I'm seeing my friends, I'm at some comedy festival. But the problem can be is you then do that like every night for 4 months, and at the end of it, you're like, oh, I don't think the 4 beers I had tonight are not the same as the 4 beers I had 4 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very much a social drinker. Like, I don't really have alcohol in the house. And I will buy alcohol for a specific event. If we're going somewhere, going to dinner or going to someone's house or something like that. I don't generally have alcohol in the house. But when I do have it in the house, I drink all of it. You know what I mean? Like there's no point. It's not going to sit there. Like a 6-pack is not going to sit there over like the course of a month or something. It'll go in a couple of days.
I must admit that I am certainly, we've talked on the podcast recently about the fact that I've been cooking a lot more than I was. And
Oh, yeah.
because Amy's been away and because I've been essentially housebound because my back's been so bad to really travel, I have to do things that I can do standing up. And so cooking has been one of those things where you're like, oh, great, I can at least still cook and do that sort of thing. So I've actually been really doing a whole sort of experimental, like trying a whole bunch of things I haven't tried before in the kitchen and stuff. And I must admit that I do like to do that while drinking a big glass of red wine in like a nice glass, because it makes me feel like I'm like, look at me, I'm cooking. I have a glass of red wine that I'm swirling. And I'm like, I'm not even reading a recipe now. I'm just imagining, I'm tasting stuff to see if it tastes good.
Yeah, I think one of the best things for my beer drinking was moving to an apartment where I couldn't have a barbecue, because when I lived in that house that had the backyard, I was out in the barbecue all the time, and it just felt natural to have a beer in my hand as I was cooking food on the barbecue.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those ones where you're just like, if I'm barbecuing anything, got to have a beer while you barbecue.
Yeah, if anything's on fire, you should have a beer as well. Just looking at a fire, you got to have a beer in your hand. Turning things on a barbecue, you got to have a beer in your hand.
It is one of those things, isn't it? Like if you cook the eggs in the house and you're drinking a beer, then people are just like, what's going on, mate? Do you have an issue? But if you're outside by the pool near a barbecue and you've got some eggs on the grill and a bit of bacon, you know, that sort of vibe, and you've also got a beer there, people are like, oh, look at this. How fun's this?
Yeah. Can I ask, if the Bulldogs are playing, you've got the house to yourself, the Bulldogs are playing and you don't have any booze in the house, will you go and get some beer or something to watch the football with?
Yes, or I might. Yeah, well, here's the other thing now is they have these like services where you can order, you know, beer to your house. Like I use one in my neighborhood called Jimmy Brings, and they like, you know, so you don't even have to get to that point now where it was. I used to have to at least put on some shoes and like, you know, shuffle down to the pub if I wanted some alcohol. But these days I can just, you know, you can do the double. You can do if you're not going to cook, particularly for a Bulldogs game, you just do the double order. You do the alcohol order, you do a food order, and you just have it all arrive.
Yeah, right. Is that our first sponsor, Jimmy Bings? Just a nice little plug in the middle.
No, but we do know one of the people who actually is involved in the company. So I guess it's like, it's not cash for comment because they're not giving me anything for free, but it's a good service.
Now, Will, it's a big day for TOFOP because our producer, Mike Howell, this week had a vasectomy.
Yes, that is true. It is a massive day. Look, here's the thing. I don't know if I don't know if I'm in favor of just hearing about it at such late notice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I feel like that's something that maybe the producer of the show could have told us about. Maybe, you know, in the weeks leading up to this, we could have had some sort of arc. You know, we could have like, you know, really kind of explored the idea. We maybe could have had a few, you know, maybe if we're looking for something to get people to the Opera House, we could have promised them, you know, a last bit of DNA, last bit of seed. You know what I mean? Like
that is perfect. Mike Howell, you should have given us more notice. We could have done the vasectomy live on stage.
Now that,
can you imagine that? The world's
value
first
for money at the Opera
live
House.
vasectomy. What sounds better? A comedy conversation between two old mates or a guy getting his balls chopped off live on stage?
Firstly,
they chop the balls off?
Yeah, firstly, I'm not sure that's what happens. I feel like your understanding of what a vasectomy might be. It's not, they don't just get out like a little guillotine, like one of those ones they use for cigars, and they get you to poke your balls through it, and then they just guillotine them off, sew them back up, everything's fine.
Well, Mike Howell's giving us a bit of information about the surgery. So it was 3 incisions and 8 stitches. How long was the cut, Mike Howell? Can you give us that in metric, not imperial too? Millimeters, please.
Well, this is the thing I was going to say. If we'd flown Mike Howell out to do it live on stage at the Sydney Opera House, firstly, that would have been a great show. Secondly, there's got to be a souvenir out of that somebody in the audience could have got. And last but not least, can you imagine John Deeks describing each piece of the operation as it was happening?
Well, what we should have done is Mike Howell, you should have used his last 3 potent ejaculates, put them into like a little jar, like sperm bank style, and we could have auctioned them off, like frozen them. Like, you know, so they're preserved. And Mike Howell, would you have been okay with that if we had donated your sperm to like a sperm bank?
I mean, this is what I would have liked. This would be brilliant. He says he has 5 kids, but mate, these would be fucking Aussie kids, so they're better. So they'd be half Australian, mate. And to be honest, you wouldn't even have to pay for the thing if you were in Australia because our healthcare system would pay for the whole thing for you. So we get you out, you get your free healthcare for your vasectomy, and then Oprah style, in the theme of our show, we get Michael up on stage flicking the remaining sperm. Like, you get some sperm. You get some sperm.
Yeah.
You get some sperm.
Like multiple MIGs in Silence of the Lambs. Right? We would have to put like a disclaimer or a warning on the poster that the front 3 rows need to wear waterproof clothing.
Well, it's like the Waterworld show at Universal Studios. It's like an outdoor stunt show, and there's like areas you can sit on, the seats, that you go, well, this is the splash zone. So they would obviously have to have, like at the Opera House, they would have like a splash zone. I don't know if they've ever had a show at the Opera House. They probably have, actually. They have a lot of like kind of bloody, sort of like plays and stuff like that. I'm sure that at some stage there's been a splash zone.
So, Michael, you can just feed this information to us as we go. But I'm keen to know about the procedure. I'm assuming they actually put you under. Like, a local anaesthetic would be probably disturbing, wouldn't it? Just to get like a little injection and be conscious during the procedure.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a local. Oh my
it is
God!
a local.
So
do you watch what's going on?
Yeah, and what was your doctor's name? Like, I imagine, like, does he have a name like Doctor Ball Killer?
Oh, hang on. Hang on, Charlie. I've just seen Michael's response. We talked about this show while the doctor was doing it.
Wow. Nothing for everybody? Something for a guy getting his balls cut off. No, sorry, you're not getting your balls cut off. I keep getting that wrong. What was your doctor's name, Michael? Dr. Weeks, which ironically is about the amount of recovery you're going to need to get over that surgery, I imagine.
I mean, do they give you? How do you patch it up? Do you get some sort of is it just bandages, or is there like a sling of some kind? Is there like a padding? Do you get some sort of protective sock? Like, how does it work?
I mean, I imagine that there is. There's got to be a lot of that kind of, when doctors are doing something that's fairly invasive, just to break the ice, they have to make some kind of comment about how strange it is that they've got their hands down there. Like, I imagine that, he'd maybe make some comment about, he hasn't had balls in his he hasn't had this many balls in his hands since he gave up juggling.
Well, but that's weird because he's a vasectomy doctor. It would happen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd be really cool with it. I reckon it's more like he guesses the weight. Like, he's just one of those. He just.
What I like to think is the way that he knows that the surgery is done is he tastes before and after. You just seem like a wine connoisseur. He takes a little sample and just swizzles around his mouth. He's like, yeah, definitely. That's a treat. That's worked a treat. Dr. Ball Killer. Another tick on the board for Dr. Ball Killer.
Here's what I'm seeing. I know this is not how it works, but I'm seeing it's kind of like Indiana Jones style. And he's got to kind of take the balls out and then replace them with other balls. He's got to get the exact.
He's just weighing it up. He's got to guess the weight. He's just filling a couple little bags with sand. He's looking at Mike Hal's balls, just trying to guesstimate what it weighs, and he's just doing a little bit of adjustment, bit of sand. You know what? You should ask him, just in case, because I think you can reverse a vasectomy. Maybe you could have asked him to put a zipper on the outside, so next time you don't have to cut it open. You can just easy access, mate. That sounds good. Or you know what? You're going to get older. They're going to get saggier. Maybe you could have just installed a bit of drawstring or something so as you get a bit older. You can just hoist them up a bit tighter.
I mean, the idea of having some sort of little rope or tie or whatever where you could adjust the... I mean, it seems sensible in some ways. Here's the thing I was going to say is that I once had a doctor make small chat with me while he was holding my balls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did he say?
It was in North Bondi. I remember it really distinctly. So, where the North Bondi shops are, there's those two coffee shops that are across the road from each other. So there's one kind of on Campbell Parade, the main strip. And then across from there, there's a kind of little smaller one. There's a doctor in there somewhere. And I had to go and get a medical. And while he was holding my balls, holding them, which again... in every other medical I've ever had since then, no one's ever held my balls. So I'm not sure why he even needed to do it. But he said while he while he was holding my balls, he said, "So I believe you've met Nicole Kidman." Yep.
Can I ask, was it like a cradle, a cup, or a hold?
It certainly wasn't a hold. I would say it was somewhere between a cradle and a cup. It was a crup.
So he was taking the weight of them, though, gently taking the weight.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
So it was like if you were bartering on olden times and someone gave you a bag of gold and you would just like hold it in your hand and you would go, yes, like I think that's, 6 gold coins in there or something.
No,
like
he didn't
that.
jingle
that kind of
it.
motion.
No, he didn't jingle it. There was no kind of like jingling the bag. I would say it was more like, like you had some sort of fragile egg that you needed to carry across the room. So you'd hold it in your palm in the same way as like you would hold a fragile egg so that you wouldn't like break it.
I had to get injections before I went to India to get a polio injection, which is quite a significant injection. So they put it in your buttock. And so the doctor told me this. And so I got up and immediately dropped my pants and bent over his table. And he said, no, just lower your waistband. That'll be fine.
I must admit,
no need to expose both buttocks, Mr. Clausen.
Here's what I would like doctors to do, though. Be more clear about how much of your clothes you have to take off. I've been going to the physio, obviously, a lot recently. I'm going sort of every 2 or 3 days. And every time they kind of work on different areas of your body, and some of them don't involve me taking my shirt off. Like some days it involves me taking my shirt off, but other days it doesn't. Tell me beforehand, because if I don't need to take my shirt off, I don't want to just take it off so you can put a towel over me and then never do anything on my back. Tell me beforehand, like how many. Don't let me guess what I need to take off.
But do they know? Like, aren't they kind of? Isn't the whole point, especially if you're seeing like an osteo or a physio or whatever, is they need to see the whole alignment. So I'm imagining what they do is they get you to stand up and turn your head left and right and bend forward and all that kind of stuff.
No, he just gently cups my balls. And then I lay down.
Are you sure this guy is a doctor? Yeah, it's above a mechanics.
Yeah.
it's handwritten sign. He looks reputable. So Michael has given us a bit more information on his the ball apocalypse. It says first 3 weeks afterwards, no ejaculations. Well, okay. What about involuntary ejaculations? I guess that's something you just got to risk. You're going to have a dream about.
But hang on. Like, when was the last time that you had an involuntary ejaculation?
I think if maybe I wasn't able to manually ejaculate,
really?
Then after 3 weeks, it might come out.
Is that why you thought?
I've never gone longer than.
Is that why you thought it came out involuntarily the first time? You were just so full of jizz that some leaked out, and since then you've just been every day. I've just got to do this. I've got to do it because otherwise it just spurts out when you don't know.
Exactly. It's a pressure valve. You've got to just release the pressure. Okay, so first 3 weeks, no ejaculations. But then the next 3 weeks, he's meant to ejaculate 40 to 50 times to clear the pipes. So what's that? Roughly almost just 17 times, 17 ejaculates a week. Well, I think it's bloody. I could do that in a day. What are you talking about?
Michael has put up two and a half a day, but that's not right at all, because if you only do 2.5 a day, you're only actually technically doing 2, because half's not going to get the job done.
Yeah, so you want to overcompensate, I'd say. If the goal is to clear the pipes, but I would like to know what would happen if you didn't clear the pipes. Like, is there some renegade sperm? Like, you think about it. This is an action movie, right?
Right.
You're a little sperm in Michael's balls. And then this fucking invading force has come in and wiped out your entire population. But you hid in a little attic in Michael's balls, and you have survived the massacre of your people. And so now you're sort of sticking your head out to see what's around, and where you walk out and it's just like devastation, just no one's left alive. So you're like Newt in Aliens, the little girl in Aliens. You're just running around and like pipes and stuff, hiding from the invading force, like hoping to somehow survive.
I actually think it's more like the Diary of Anne Spank.
You're right, I meant to say Ballians, not aliens.
Yeah, that's what I love. I love the idea that there's just one little sperm in there, one little survivor sperm,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like a last man on earth thing, but it's like, it's the last, you're the last sperm in the ball bag, and it's your kind of mission is to you can make it sort of an animated film.
This is what you do. You kill most of the sperm, but you round up 6 champion sperm. Like, you know how there's always one sperm, the fastest swimmer gets to the egg? So you round up, before you do the operation, you round up your 6 champion sperms. And then you clear out the rest. So they're just left in the balls, those 6 sperm, and then they have like a duel. You have like a round robin where they duel until one sperm is left standing, and that sperm gets to impregnate an egg. So that's what he wins.
Oh, okay. So it's not just the fastest swimmer. It's like a range of events that the sperm have got to be good at. Because up until now...
You know what it is, Will? You know what it is, Will? It's a Dickathlon. A Dickathlon.
But I like it, Charlie. Maybe if they get to the point where they decide... we've got this idea where we can, look at our DNA now. We'll be able to decide if maybe we'll be able to get rid of some diseases that are, genetic for people. We might be able to decide on like eye color and, sex of babies and all these sort of things. But maybe you go a step further than that. Maybe they realize the problem with humanity, because let's be honest, we've got some problems, guys, and they're manifesting themselves in various different ways at the moment. Maybe they work out that the problem is that we've based our entire survival on the sperm that survives is just really good at swimming. And just being really good at swimming doesn't actually mean that you're the best sperm. Like, there was other sperm who were probably really good at, getting along with each other and not causing wars, or other sperm that are really good at, treating people equally, or not having racism or whatever. So you have a series of events in your Dickathlon, trademark TOFOP, and you assemble a team, and then they have some sort of series of competitions.
Because the way we're doing it now, there's actually no guarantee that sperm isn't just the Stephen Bradbury of sperm.
Right.
Like, maybe all the elite athletes or the elite sperm were ahead of the game, and then they all collided into each other, and then bloody old doofus sperm goes swimming up the back and impregnates the egg. What we want is like a gladiatorial contest between sperms. I would even like to see, doctors are doing amazing things with microtechnology, little shields and spears and stuff for the sperm to carry. Like, maybe you can sort of train them to actually fight each other.
Or do you want to do
do you want a range? Like, you want an academic test, you want a physical test, you want like a psychological profiling of each sperm?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could get it done in for entertainment's sake, in a more of a Hunger Games-y format. But I would like the tasks to have various different elements of some of them are physical strength, but some of them are more like mental, strength and those sort of things, so that you can have a well-rounded sperm. I guess.
Yeah, I'd love to see the psychology test, just some psychologist sitting opposite a sperm and just holding up the ink blot test to just be, what do you see? An egg. What do you see? An egg. What do you see? An egg.
Very single-minded, this fucking sperm.
Literally.
So you've got to shake out the randoms, basically. You've got to clear the pipes and get 60 away, 50 or 60 away.
Yeah, 50 or 60 away. And so that would definitely allow us, if we held on to those final 6 sperm, let's say we'll make it a final 10. You know what we do? We install, all right, this is all out. We're going all out pitching this to a network. It's the Dick Brother house. So basically, we keep 10 sperm in Michael's balls, but we install cameras, and we give them a series of challenges. Like, some are physical challenges, others are mental aptitude, but we allow the sperms to go into Michael's dick where the diary room is, and they get to record all the video. So the audience also gets to vote on which sperm has the best personality, because you never know. The person who's the overachiever might not have that kind of everyday man or everyday sperm appeal that you want. So that adds another element where sperm can be voted out.
I don't know if I like that, though, because then you're going to get some sperm who isn't actually qualified to be a sperm, but just has populist opinions, will get all the votes. And people are like, oh, you know what I like about that sperm? That sperm says it like it is. Says sperm's only for white people. Sperm's white, right? Oh, he's got some opinions I can respond to. Here's what I reckon we do. I reckon this is too hard. Obviously, the technology is not ready yet, but here's what we could do.
Yet.
Yeah. But here's what we could do. We could save the remaining sperm. And like you said, save enough to impregnate 10 different people, right? We impregnate those people with this sperm, but we then we just leave them alone for the next 20 years. Then we invite them all on a Big Brother style TV show, and we reveal in the process of it that they are all technically brothers and sisters.
I think I'm getting a feeling that maybe the plot of Twins was something similar to this, because wasn't Danny DeVito, like they were saying, like when you're trying to create the perfect human, genetically create the perfect human, you'll get the offshoots. And that was what Danny DeVito was. So actually, Michael, can you just bring up some info? Can you, I know we have done an episode on Twins before, but it's probably worth revisiting. Can you just bring up the Twins synopsis?
Well, I mean, if there's, look, as long as it's not an identical episode to the one we did before, it'll be in theme.
Okay, so the products of genetic experiment, fraternal twin. Okay, I need more information on the genetic experiment. What I want to know is, is it the isolated sperm that was kind of genetically altered to be perfect, or were they two embryos, like two eggs were fertilized, and then from the embryos they're like, oh, we've got one good one and one bad one. Do you think the writers of the film delved that deep?
I am going to look it up here, and let's go to the Wikipedia page, and we'll...
No, Michael's got some information here. The result of a secret experiment carried out at a genetics laboratory to combine the DNA of 6 fathers to produce one perfect child. I don't know enough about fucking genetics to know how that works. How do you combine the DNA of people? Can you even do that? Okay. To the surprise of everyone, the embryo split and twins were born. Hence the title of the film, Will. It was the same embryo. So it was however they combined the DNA into one sperm, they put it into the egg, and then that egg split. So basically, Danny DeVito is the offcuts of, a prime rib.
Yeah, he's the leftovers. He's the other bits.
Yeah.
So we could do that. That'd be brilliant. You've got a house full of people, and they've all got, like, half of their DNA is the same, and you get to see what they grew up in all their different environments.
Yeah. Now I think we're talking about trading places.
No, you know what it is? It's an experiment like 7-Up. You know the movie 7-Up where they revisited those people every 7 years to see what their life was like? We do that, but with 10 different, okay, this is it. So we get people, all the mothers or even fathers for one, whatever. But we find 10 different people with 10 different life experiences, and then we visit in with them to show how much is like nature versus nurture.
Yeah, that's a great idea. But is this still all happening from Mike Hell's balls?
Yeah.
Because we need branding. Like, we don't want to just give this idea away. Like, I think it has to start with the TOFOP universe, right?
I mean, look, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, our listeners are called teabaggers. I feel like this is perfect branding for us.
100%. So Mike Hell is saying that you're not sterile immediately following the procedure. So I imagine if we dug in there nice and deep, we could probably find a few stowaways. We could find at least 10 sperm, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If Michael saved it, right? If we got him to save the sperm, this last remaining sperm, the last of their kind.
Yeah.
And then we got him to come to Australia with the jars of sperm. Do you think they would let him into the country?
Depends. Are the jars of sperm strapped to his body? Because you can't bring in biohazard without declaring it, right?
But it's not biohazard. It's sperm. It's just my sperm.
But isn't? Yeah, but that counts as biohazard. It's like biological material. You can't just bring that across borders.
You bring it inside your body. Like every man who comes through is smuggling sperm.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, I get it. You sound like a super paranoid, ultra right-wing feminist. Every man is smuggling sperm. They're just waiting to deliver it to you.
Just a bunch of sperm smugglers. That's what we call them on my blog.
You dirty sperm smugglers. Okay, sorry. I thought you were saying Mike Howell needs to get them into a jar now and fly them out. But you're saying Mike Howell could come out like a sperm mule.
It's a much more comical idea that he has to put him into the jars first and bring them in like a confused old Chinese woman trying to bring in her Chinese medicine on border security. In fact, wouldn't that be perfect? Wouldn't it be perfect if we find out when they're filming border security? I mean, we want to get this podcast out to as many people as possible, right? Wouldn't it be...
I don't know why.
A perfect episode of Border Security would be if there was some dude coming to Australia for a podcast and he brought jars of his own semen. That would be like an episode that definitely people would watch, right? Like,
Yeah,
So-
100%.
as long as we have Mike Howell wearing like a TOFOP branded T-shirt, and he in there like, why do you have this sperm? He says, well, because I produce this podcast. It's kind of like a comedy conversation between two mates, and like he says, for that comedy conversation,
And the guy at customs goes, that sounds fucking awful.
So imagine this. This would be a great episode, because imagine the questions they would have. They're like, excuse me, why do you have this sperm with you? Well, I produce this comedy podcast, and they've asked me to save this sperm, and we're going to give it away. They're doing a show at the Sydney Opera House. You go to prison.
Yeah. I reckon even better is we call Mike Howell. We say, hey, Mike Howell, we need you to fly out ASAP. Can you just like put those sperm into a jar and fly out to us? And then just as he's about to leave, we call him and say, you know what? We need you to put the sperm back inside you and fly out because they're going to arrest you at the airport. So then Mike Howell stays up all night, like with one of those jewelers, like eyepieces in and like a pair of tweezers, trying to like feed the sperm back into his balls.
Oh, at least you've gone back into the balls. That's where the zipper or Velcro would be handy. Like, it's a little pouch to keep stuff. I thought you were going to have to just feed them back into the eye. But the balls is a much better system. No. Well, okay.
Or Mike Howell gets our text saying you're going to have to put it back inside. And so he just like shots it. And we're like, Mike Howell, we don't think that's the way you get it back into your balls. You don't drink it. It's like, and he's like, I know.
Anyway, welcome to this quality entertainment that has taken us all the way to the Sydney Opera House. Okay, so the show at the Opera House is like September the 15th or something, right? Something around there. I don't even know what the date is, but something around then. That's, 2 months away from now, right? July, August, September. Yep. Yeah, 2 months from today.
Yeah.
In fact. Okay. So we get Mike Howell to ring his doctor and ask him, what would happen if I just held on for 2 months? Because that way he could smuggle them inside his body. Like, is it gonna,
Well, I wonder what would happen there. Would he would explode? Maybe he will start having nighttime ejaculations. If Mike Howell is not allowed to touch it for 2 months, or his wife's not allowed to touch it for 2 months, then holy cow! Like him, I mean, they might have to turn the plane back. Like, you've heard of like volcanoes erupting and stopping flights. This will be the first time the eruptions happened on the plane.
Excuse me, sir, we're not going to allow you to board this flight because you're clearly too full of jizz and could explode at any stage.
I like to see like Mike Howell, like Midnight Special style, just like shuffling down customs, his balls so overloaded with sperm, he's walking like a cowboy. Just like gingerly takes his seat, like, oh no, sudden, even the slightest vibration of that plane taking off could mean disaster.
Yeah, you see him get a series of drinks, he sculls the alcohol and then just tips the ice on his groin. Just getting there, he's like sweating. He's got his balls in a boogie board bag. He's trying to take them through.
It's just... They have to get one of those wheelchairs when he arrives at Sydney Airport just to like wheel him out. But then, like, imagine. See, that's a problem for us, because are we saying, is he going to donate those sperms live on stage, or are we going to put him into a jar? I mean, because we've flown him all this way. Let's not waste having Mike Howell do it live on stage, right?
No, we've got to. Yeah, it's got to be. In fact, we get Mike Howell to do the flying fox down. So we gather everybody who wants some below with jars. So everyone brings their own jar, and then he gets on a giant flying fox and just kind of spreads it all across the crowd.
Yeah. Like a crop duster.
Yeah.
People just holding up their own Tupperware containers.
Right.
Take your own piece of Mike Howell. Just spinning around. It's been such a long build-up. He just is spinning around uncontrollably. Just in circles. Just showering our entire audience. Do you think we'd ever be invited back? Ever?
Oh, mate. We're not going to get invited back.
Would the audience ever stop vomiting?
I mean, it'd be something. It'd be something, mate. It'd be something. Anyway, whatever we do will be equally as good as that, I'm sure.
It has to be a kind of a short episode today because Will's got shows and I'm about to fucking fall unconscious. But we did it. It looked like we weren't going to be able to do this show a few days ago. I sent you a message stressing out about not being able to, because where I am has like no Wi-Fi. I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. But I found my dongle. I've been playing with my dongle. I was able to charge up my dongle. And it worked pretty much okay. So we should be on track.
I'm so glad that you said what you've just said, which reveals to me that you're as delighted by the word dongle as I still am. Because when you actually said that, you went, oh, I found my dongle. I was here by myself and I laughed out loud to myself, like just laughed out loud. I'm like, that is a funny word. It's funny that word has like stayed being dongle because it just sounds so weird.
But there must be another name for it, like a more serious, like you got like a
Do you think
USB
dongle's a
stick.
nickname? I think dongle's what it's called.
Michael, can you Google dongle for us and find out if there's an alternate name for it? Why are you laughing?
We're just making him Google the bad stuff now because now that the government is like monitoring all our internet, we're just like, no. You Google this shit.
This has actually worked pretty well, so we should be able to stay on track. Now you're going to be heading over to Montreal this week, aren't you?
I am. In fact, Tuesday the 20-something or the 20th or something like that, I start my shows at Montreal, Critically Wil. A week of shows, 6 shows. I'm doing galas and stuff and a whole bunch of other shows as well, but please come and see my show. It's the most shows I've ever done over there, and so obviously the more audience, the better. So yeah, tell people, come see it. I think it'll be really fun. It's called Critically Wil. Tickets are on sale now. Come and see that in Montreal. That'd be cool.
A dongle is a small piece of hardware that connects to another device to provide it with additional functionality. In relation to computing, the term is primarily associated with hardware providing a copy protection mechanism for commercial software.
Right.
What the fuck does that even mean? The term dongle, in inverted commas, is also associated with a similar device meant to provide additional forms of wireless connectivity devices such as Wi-Fi or Bluetooth support, often over USB connections, as well as small digital media players. Doesn't say anything about why it's called a dongle, though. Who invented that word?
Who invented the dongle? Why is a dongle called a dongle? Let's ask those questions.
Was there an Arthur dongle? Hang on, let me invent. Okay, I've just punched in why is it called a dongle. Originally a slang for a plug-in module to copyright protected software, dongle now refers to any small... Yeah, we know that. It doesn't say why. For the most part, dongles have caused... Where did the word actually come from? That's a matter of debate. And spoiler, of enduring mystery. Okay, this is good. This is something we can speculate off.
Right.
We don't know much for sure about the word that has been the source of much frustration and controversy, and regardless ubiquity. Has it been? Should I click on this link about the controversy around dongles?
Yeah, I want to know about the dongle controversy.
Hang on. The dongle controversy, right? Yep. So for some reason, this dongle is not letting me click this link.
It's a cover up. It's silencing you. It knows that you're trying to Google dongle-related activity on a dongle.
Woman fired for tweeting dongle jokes.
Oh.
It's because it's in the Atlantic, and because I won't let it display ads, they're not letting me read the article. Motherfucker.
Okay.
Oh well. It seemed interesting though. A woman was fired for something to do with dongles and jokes. You know what? I'm just gonna go, that's two. How dongle jokes got 2 people fired and led to a DDoS attack. An incident at the annual Python Developer Conference has led to allegations of sexism, death threats, and the firing of 2 people, and apparently multiple DDoS, distributed denial of service attacks. The strange saga began on Sunday at the PyCon event in Santa Clara, California, where Adria Richards, a developer evangelist for a small email vendor SendGrid, overheard jokes being told by 2 developers sitting behind her during a session. The jokes were sexual in nature, she said. Richards proceeded to take a picture of the developers, then tweeted the photo, and asked the Python organizers to have a word with them. The story ended with one of the developers getting fired, Richards getting fired, and an apparent denial of service attacks against Richards' personal blog and against SendGrid. Anonymous has reviewed the situation and rendered judgment using the collective wisdom and experience, wrote one anonymous poster in a manifesto. Could the story get any
It's good to have that anonymous person backing up Anonymous's attitude towards this.
Could this story get any stranger? So her tweet is, not cool. Jokes about forking repos in a sexual way and big dongles right behind me at Python. And she took a photo of them. According to Richard's tweets and a personal blog, forking and dongle jokes don't belong at tech conferences.
No.
The developers in question were sitting behind her at Python and made jokes about forking repos in a I guess forking means fucking. Forking repos in a sexual way and big dongles. Richards herself apparently made a joke about male genitalia on Twitter using a work account several days before PyCon. So the pot calling the kettle dongle. Richards did not tell the developers that she was offended, saying in the comments in her blog, "I didn't want to be heckled or have my experience denied." She initially decided to remain silent about the jokes she wrote, until she saw up on the main stage the photo of a little girl who had been at the Young Coders Workshop. At that moment, I realized I had to do something, or she would never have the chance to learn and love programming because the ass clowns behind me would make it impossible for her to do so, she wrote. After tweeting the pictures of developers, she then wrote on Twitter, "Can someone talk to these guys about their conduct? I'm in lightning talks. Top right near stage, 10 rows back, hashtag PyCon." She also linked to PyCon's code of conduct, which said, in part, that offensive jokes are not appropriate. On her blog, Richards concluded, "Yesterday, the future of programming was on the line and I made myself heard." PyCon staff quickly spoke to the developers who apologized, but their staff took no further action. PyCon described its response in a blog yesterday. On Sunday, the 17th of March, an incident occurred involving some inappropriate comments made during a crowded plenary session. Per the stated guidelines for attendees, blah, blah, blah. Both parties were met with in private. The comments that were made were in poor taste, and the individuals involved agreed, apologized, and no further actions were taken. Forkings and firings. A person going under the name Mr. Hank, Hacker News name Mr. Hank, claimed that he was the developer who was fired. He apologized for the jokes, but said Richards misinterpreted the forking statement. The developers were discussing the process of forking code bases, not making sexual jokes. He said, "While I did make a big dongle joke about a fictional piece of hardware that identified as male, no sexual jokes were made about forking." Is this the nerdiest fucking, beef you've ever heard? His quote, "She gave me no warning. She smiled while she snapped my picture and sealed my fate. Let this serve as a message to anyone. Our actions and words, big or small, can have a serious impact. I will be at PyCon 2014. I will joke and socialize with everyone, but I will also be mindful of my audience, accidental or otherwise. Again, I apologize." The other developer was not fired. Wow. How's that?
Well, here's the thing
So-
that I'm not here to defend, because obviously, particularly the tech industry has had some issues with male and female equality. And, so it probably goes through a broader theme that's throughout the community. And it probably also goes to the idea that, if you're mostly men, you might joke in a way that men would joke amongst other men and not realize that there are people around you who might not find that appropriate. But I will say this. You know how, there's that thing in, police, there's entrapment? You've got to tell me you're a cop. When you're calling things fucking dongle and forking and stuff stop making them sound like sex things. And then it'll just be harder to make them just give them other names that don't sound like sex things.
Well, the bizarre thing about the dongle, it says in this Atlantic article, is the likeliest origin stories doesn't actually exist, because most dictionaries attribute the existence of dongle to a random inspiration on the part of an unknown neologizer. Probably an arbitrary coinage, one reference sums it up rather dismissively. According to the book English Words, History and Structure, dongle is one of a class of words that seems to have sprung up, Athena-like, from the minds of the first utterers in a process of de novo creation. Fellow arbitrary words, per this assessment, are ditzy, gizmo, grungy, blurb, hanky-panky, and a term whose existence can be considered arbitrary in only the most clinical sense, flamdoodle. When have you ever heard the word fucking flamdoodle?
Well, here's what I want to say, though, is surely this thing had another name beforehand, though. You don't just invent something and not give it a name, do you?
I guess not, but why that? Mike Howell's done a bit of digging around.
Right.
He's found a quote that says, "The word is most likely a blend of dong and dangle, as it can resemble a penis that hangs off a computer." I'm looking at my dongle right now, and my dongle, my biological dongle, organic dongle, does not look that. Do you have to work hard to look at that and think that looks like a penis?
Also, the other thing is, and when you talk about that idea of, male-dominated thinking. Like, your dongle goes into your computer. So it's really a much more a sort of male and female coming together sort of experience rather than it is just a big dongle. You're sticking your dongle into a...
receptor. So it's what you should. It should be. It should be called It should be called a fuckle, because you're basically, making your dongle have sex with the computer. You could call it an intercoursal.
Exactly.
A coitusal.
Yeah, so you just need to stick your dongle in your vagina port, and then you can have intercoursal.
Which is probably as good a point as any to finish up on. We have a website.
And remind people we're playing the
TOFOP.com.
Sydney Opera House.
That's right. More of that witty repartee on stage at Australia's most prestigious entertainment venue, the Sydney Opera House. We get the feeling they've never actually listened to this show. I don't know what they're basing it off, but we're going to be there. Check out our website for more details, TOFOP.com. You can find this and other great podcasts for your auditory entertainment needs. We also have a Patreon page, which is how we enable to hire Mike Howell and make fun of his balls for at least an hour. So if you've got any spare change that you can throw our way, every bit counts. You can go to patreon.com/TOFOP. It's a monthly subscription service. Any amount you want to donate, you can get access to some exclusive material. A brand new Everyone Relax by James Fosdyke has gone up this week, and it's actually one of my favorites. It features a few
really
guest
good.
Charlies that you may know well. Plus, you'll also get advance notice of live shows and other events. Obviously, this show has already gone on sale for the Opera House. The pre-sale is on until Sunday, and I believe the general admission tickets will start a week after that. So if you're super, super keen, you've got till Sunday. Chances are it could sell out. Is that right, Will?
Yes. Who fucking knows?
I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.